Hi everyone, and thanks for joining us today. We're going to be talking about our new Printer Profile Manager Enterprise. This is our new printer management package for our networked Link-OS printers. So it's been really clear as we've talked to customers about device management with the Link-OS printers that they'd like to see us make some changes and add some features to our device management capability. So let's take a look at what people asked us for. First off, very clear, people wanted us to do a self-installer, and that is the ability to go to our website and grab the application off of the website, download it, install it without assistance from let's say our services team, and go ahead and try that product out in a demo framework. So that's the first big change that we wanted to talk about here. With the new product, you'll be able to do just that, install it, run it for 30 days with all features turned on, and then after 30 days decide if you want to take the next step and obtain a license. Second, we heard about printer discovery. When you have a large number of printers that are spread across a big series of geographic locations or even on-site locations in the same building, it can be hard to find those printers. And so we added a very aggressive printer discovery feature to the product that allows the user to go out, have the product search through the subnets on their network, find those printers and add those printers to the system. And even in those cases where for some reason they can't add a printer, we've added the ability to manually add a printer to the system based on its IP address. We wanted to make printer setup simpler, and so we've added some convenience features that we'll talk about in this presentation that make printer setup simpler than it was before. We wanted to extend and add on to our security features, and so we continue to use a secure, encrypted, authenticated connection to have the printers talk to the application, and then we've added some additional features on top of that again I'll talk about in the body of the presentation. We wanted to make printer profiles more useful. Now in the past what we had was a kind of a monolithic profile that had all of the features in the profile, and one of the bits of feedback we got from our users was they love it if we would take the network configuration and split that out as a separate configuration. And the reason that people wanted us to do that was in many cases the network configuration was going to need to be fixed for a specific printer, right, a specific IP address, for example, for a specific printer, but the profile, the settings on the printer could be used generically across many printers. Thus, we've broken those two apart, and now you can set up network profiles as a separate entity or as a separate configuration. Next, scheduled downloads. This one was really crucial. It's not always the best time to do the downloads to the printers. In many cases, there's a real need for the download to happen at a time that you need it to happen at. And so we created a scheduled download system that allows you as a user to say, okay, I've got my profile that I want, I've got everything set up in this profile the way I think it should be set up, but I'm going to have that profile go out to a printer or multiple printers a few days down the road from now when it's more convenient, maybe when those printers aren't in active use, and that way you can avoid having any kind of production disruption. So scheduled downloads are a big part of the product. And then finally, quick status checking. We've added some features in the product we'll take a look at to make sure that it's easy to check status on a printer and know from a distance and at a glance what's going on with the printer. So moving on from there, looking at finding printers, the number one message we got is it should just be simpler. That the product should be kind of the eye in the sky, looking at the network and making it easier to find those printers and add them to the management console in the product. And so we added on some features for doing this. At this point, you can now go and search on an individual IP address. You can search on a subnet. You can have the product search across subnets and find the printers. And once it finds those printers, you can choose to add them or not add them. This is a lot easier than in the past where you might have to manually configure the printers to be added to the profile manager. Now the product finds the printers, and if you choose to have them added, the product will have them added automatically. You think that's a big enhancement. We've extended our use of tags in the product. Now tags are if you take away nothing from this presentation, nothing else, take away the idea of tagging. It's fundamental to how you use this product. Tagging allows you to organize your printers into groups. And the reason that this is so crucial is when you have large number of printers, let's say 1,500 printers, 1,000 printers, 5,000 printers, Being able to sort them into groups and take action on just the groups or individual printers that you want to take action on is absolutely crucial. It shapes the traffic that goes on the network. It allows you to avoid any kind of production disruptions in those areas that you don't want to do management on, and yet focus those management tasks on the area that you do want to make changes on. So tags are really important, and we've added a number of features to make adding tags easier. In fact, let's just go ahead and jump right into the software here and take a look at that. So the feature that we added here is called quick tagging. Now I've got a number of printers in my system right now, but I've got some of them that are untagged. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the quick tag here. I'm going to pick a couple of tags that I want to have applied to a couple of my printers. I want them applied to those printers, and let's say I want them applied to those printers as well. Okay, that looks great. That's what I wanted to have happen. Okay, now those printers have been tagged with those new tags. It's that simple once you set up your tagging system to very quickly tag your printers. And of course, as always, the reason that tagging is so important is if I want to take a look at just the printers that are in a specific location, I can go ahead and click that tag, and now I'm looking at just those printers. And then later on, when I want to take actions on those printers, like send a resource, like a firmware file to the printer, or send a profile to the printer, again, I'm using those tags to make sure I'm taking the actions on just the printers that I want to take action on. So tagging, very, very important concept within the product, and we definitely encourage people to use it as much as possible. So simple printer setup is one of the things we heard about, and we really wanted to make it a lot easier to do setups. And so we've again made some changes to the product to make it a little bit simpler to use the features in the product. And again, we'll bring up the software here and take a look at what that means. So now when we go into a printer, we're going to go ahead and pull back the settings on this printer. This device screen looks different than it had previously. Now I've got very quick access to all my settings here, and they're nicely broken up into some logical areas. So if I want to look at one of these areas, I can just very quickly say, hey, I just want to look at, let's say, my base settings, right? I've got all my settings, fundamental settings available to me, but I'm not having to look at all of the settings in the printer at the same time. Why that matters is this. In the past, Profile Manager was managing kind of a narrow range of settings. Now we're managing over 300 settings, and so it was really important to break them up into these groups to make it just easier to very quickly get to just the area that you wanted to configure and not have to go through lots of other areas at the same time. Okay, so let's go ahead a little bit more. And then let's look at the resource files. Now, resources file is a really crucial part of the product. It's been there before, but again, we've enhanced it a little bit more, and again, we've tied it back into this idea of tagging. So we'll bring the software up again. Let's go out to the resources directory. And I've got a bunch of files up here that I've stored that I might want to send to printers. Some of them are simple little ZPL files I might want to send to a printer, or a picture I might want to send to a printer, or in some cases it might be firmware. So I've got some firmware here that might be important to me to send off to the product. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that particular item, and I'm going to take an action on that firmware. I'm going to say send it, and here's where tagging becomes again really important. Now I can choose to send it by device. I could go down this list and click these devices and say I want to send it to just those devices, or more conveniently, if I've got my tag set up in the way I want it to be set up, I can say, hey, I just want this to happen to Store 1, and I just want this to happen to Lake Villa. Okay, great. So now only those printers that are tagged Lake Villa or Store 1 are going to get this firmware, and no other printers. Again, it's all about shaping the traffic that you're sending out to the devices, making sure that you're not affecting the product during its production cycle, and really kind of very carefully controlling when you're doing those updates. So simple printer setup. Built-in security. Now, with built-in security, we continue to use our secure system called WebSockets. This is a secure, direct, encrypted connection from the application over here on the far side over to the printer. We've also enhanced that, and so optionally, if people want to, they can move up to and use the SHA-256 connection or use the standard SHA connection. Again, this is a choice where we've given customers an opportunity to really choose the security level that they want to operate at. In addition, we've added another important security feature, and that's multiple user roles. The idea with multiple user roles is that you have some users who are admins. You want them to see everything. You want them to have full access in the product, be able to do everything. With other users, they might be technicians. You want them to see only some things. You certainly don't want them to be able to set up new users or change passwords. And then finally, you have users who can have very, very limited capabilities. And in fact, with users, all users can do is see settings but not change settings. Technicians can see and change settings but not affect people's user accounts. And finally, admins can do everything, including set up new user accounts and change people's passwords. We think that that's really crucial for the kinds of customers who are working with this product, for the users who need to do this. We wanted to add one more thing on top of that. So in addition to multiple user roles, we now support what is called LDAP, or single sign-on. So if you're used to signing into your corporate resources with one password and one username, you can do that now with Profile Manager Enterprise. As long as you configure the product to connect into your LDAP or single sign-on system, it will respect those logins, meaning you can sign in and your login will be respected by Profile Manager Enterprise. And of course, not only will you be able to log in with that same password that you use to log in to your other corporate resources, when you're in Profile Manager Enterprise, you'll get the appropriate level that you were set at for the product, admin, tech, or user. That's a big enhancement, a big change from the prior product. So printer profiles are still sort of the beating heart of a product called Printer Profile Manager, and those are still there. As I mentioned, that we made a number of changes to make them easier to use. So if we go over here in the profile area, we've still got our standard profiles. Those still exist. But as we look at the profiles themselves, again, they look a little bit different. So you've got your settings, you've got your objects, and in those cases where an object couldn't be pulled back for legal reasons, like a font, we tell you that we weren't able to pull it back. So you could then add it to the profile for future distribution. We're giving you the ability to send commands. We're giving you the ability to send firmware. Now, you'll note here network settings. Again, goes to the comment I made earlier. If we don't have a network configuration set up already associated with this, you can go ahead and set up a new configuration. And in fact, let's just kind of jump through that really quickly so you get a quick look at it. So here's my network configurations that I've got set up already in the system. And as I said before, think of these as sort of a profile, but just and only for the network settings on the printer. Okay, these are not the ones I want. I want something different, so I'm going to set up a new network configuration. Let's say I'm going to set it up for wireless. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. That's going to take me through the system. And I'm going to decide how my addressing is going to be done. In this case, I'll use DHCP addressing. Make this a little bit smaller. There we go. I can choose my bands. So do I want to operate at 2.4 or 5 gigahertz, or let's say just 2.4 or just 5 gigahertz. I'll set what country I'm in, channel list if I'm using a channel list. I'll go ahead and set up my ESS ID. I'll set up my security mode. Let's just say for now I'm going to do WPPSK, but I also could be doing all the rest of our standard modes here. Great, I've got that set up the way I like it. I need to give this a pre-shared key, so I'll just make up a name here. There's my shared key. And I need to name this config. Great. All right, I'm happy with this config. It's sitting out there. I've got a nice demo config, and now I can use that, and it's associated with this profile. So when I send this profile out, it will go ahead and send out exactly this demo config. If I need to remove that network config, I can remove it, or I can edit it. And you know what? I've realized that this is not the demo config that I need. I really need it to be a wireless network config, but with a slightly different setting. Instead of WPPSK, I'm going to do EAP TLS just because we want to give you another security here. I can fill in my password and my username. While we're kind of rushing to get to this screen here, this is a new screen. This is how we deal with certificates. And this is a fairly significant change for this product. And in the past, we would have had to create separate certificate files. But now, if you have got your certificates as P12 files, we can just use those P12 files. You can either drag and drop them right here on this screen, or you can click an upload button and the system will open up a window and you can go out and find those files. I wanted to make sure that we just mention this really quickly, and we'll hop off this in a moment, but this is a big change. This is a much better way to deal with certificates than we have had in the past. And I'll go ahead and get out of this one. Okay, moving on from here. So that's our profiles. And of course, our profiles are sent by tags, and we discussed that earlier. I think we showed that earlier, but just to kind of make absolutely sure that we looked at that, we're going to go ahead and look at our profiles. There's all our profiles. Let's say that I want to send that profile, much like we did in the resources area. When I say send to devices, I can choose to send it to individual devices, or I can send it to tags. And this is an enhancement over the way we had dealt with this in the past. Makes it a lot easier to make sure that you are sending those profiles to the locations that you absolutely intend them to be sent to. Okay, so going back to our slides, scheduled downloads. This is a brand new feature. We have not shipped anything like this previously. This is the ability to send the profiles out on a schedule at the time that you want to send them out. So this gives you the ability to set up the profile, to associate the profile with tags, and then to say, I want that profile to go out at a specific time and a specific time only. And your choices are, you can send the profile out the next time the printer powers up. You can send the profile out on a schedule saying, let's say next Tuesday at 2 a.m. in the morning, I want this profile to be sent out to my printers. Or you can send it out on a repeating basis. In other words, saying every Tuesday at 3 o'clock in the morning, I want the profile sent out. Why would you do a repeating? In some cases, if you want the repeating system there to reinforce configurations on the printer all the time, then the system can do that automatically. And again, the system is doing that using tags. You can get the idea here. Tags are really important inside of this product. And again, the tags are just a great way to shape the traffic and shape the events that are happening with the product, not only now on time, but also based on tags, which can be associated with a physical location, associated with a particular role or application or process within the company. So tags and schedules together can really control very, very tightly when these profile events are happening. So quick status checking. I think we've probably looked at this before, but just a real quick note just to remind everybody, when you're looking at the product, very quickly, if there is an error with the printer, you're going to see it really fast. You can see that screen turn red. If you're looking at the screen, you can see when it's happening to multiple devices. So there's 2 of my printers in an error condition. And of course, you can very quickly step in here and look at that product and say, oh, okay, I know what's wrong with that product. The head is open. And of course, we can instruct our user to close the head, and that clears up right away. And then, of course, again, we're getting this continuous log showing all of these events that have happened with this printer, so you can get a sense of any behaviors or strange things that might be happening with that printer throughout the day. And of course, printers can be filtered or looked at on the basis of what state they're in. So if we go out to our devices screen, we can look at this in a number of ways. Now, obviously, we can look at the filters that we set up, like Dubai or LOE or Mobile Store, but then we can also say, hey, look, I just want to see what printers are in an offline state in my system. Okay, so I've got a sense of what printers are in an offline state. If I wanted to dig a little bit deeper here, I could go into this system and say, okay, I see what happened here. This printer shut off on the 24th. It shut down, and if I'm good with that, no problem. Or if I have to go ask a question about why that printer got turned off, I can very quickly figure out what happened. If I need to look at my printers in any kind of a warning state, I can look at them. Okay, there I've got a printer in a warning state. Great. If I need to look at my printers that are in error states, no problem. I can look at my printers in an error state, and in fact, you can see I'm looking at both errors and warnings. or I can look just at warnings. So very, very filterable, very controllable with these preset filters. Let's just say I wanted to look at paper outs or paper paused or basic runtime errors. I can also look at models and say, hey, I just want to look at the QLN 320s that are in the system. This list will change constantly. The system is aware of what printers are inside of it and what states are happening, so it's very easy for you to just pick one of these filters and very quickly look at them. They all work exactly like the tag, so I'll take that tag off or that filter off, and now I'm looking at all of the printers again. So you have a lot of control over looking at the printers, and of course you can also use the search area here to look at printers by their IP address, to look at them by their name, and of course we can sort them as well, look at the ascending, descending addresses, ascending, descending names. So a lot of control over how you look at the printers and how you narrow it down to the printers that you might need to take action on. So kind of summing up a little bit here, Profile Manager Enterprise. The idea is manage your printers from anywhere, anytime via a browser. Browser-based interface gives us a lot of degrees of freedom in terms of the device that you're going to look at the package through. It also means that since a browser is on more portable devices like a tablet, you'll be able to look at the product through a tablet. Very easy to find your printers, very easy to manage them as a group or as individually, as you've seen through the filtering system. Moving on here, just to kind of give a real quick sense of what Profile Manager does. You're going to get this question in some cases, and so to kind of clear this up, when Profile Manager is actually working, what actually happens is the printer initiates the connection to Profile Manager, and then in those cases where you've got updates scheduled to happen, it's going to go ahead and say, hey, I've got new content, and it's going to connect down. But the key point here is the actual entity that initiates the connection is the printer, instead of the other way around. We get that question quite a bit from customers. So in terms of the range of printers, you can see that on the bottom here. We're covering a really wide range of printers now, everything from the IMZ through the upcoming ZT 500s and 600s. When those are released, they'll be managed automatically via Profile Manager Enterprise. They won't need to do anything to the product to have them manage the ZT 500s and 600s. They're already being pre-built into the product to be managed. And this list on the side here kind of breaks down a little bit what are all the features in the product and what are all the capabilities. A lot of features here, many new features in the product, and we'll give you a sense of how to compare these to other products in the next couple of slides. So looking at this from a comparison point of view, I get this question all the time, what's the difference between these device management packages that we have? Hopefully this is a clear and easy to use view of that question. The products have a number of different features. Clearly Profile Manager Enterprise has the biggest feature set. That's really a function of it's a product we get to focus on just printers, and so we get to really put a lot of great features inside that product that are focused just on printers. But this will give you a sense of what's the difference between, let's say, Mirror and Profile Manager Enterprise, or let's say Sodi and AirWatch and the same products. Next question I get fairly frequently is, what's the difference between AVS OVS and something like Profile Manager Enterprise? So this slide from our services group does a really nice job of comparing AVS and OVS, with the sort of the summary comparison here being AVS is all about having a cloud-based application that monitors your devices, both mobile computers and printers, and in this case it'd be Link-OS printers, and looks at those from an asset point of view and from a predictive point of view. It doesn't really set settings. AVS is not a tool you can use to set settings on printers or mobile computers, but it is a good view tool, and it does give you that sort of asset view and look ahead view to what's going on with your products. OVS, a little bit of a different product. OVS is built on top of an MDM tool. It can be on-premise or cloud-based, and it does give you a nice dashboard system to allow you to look at a dashboard of both your mobile computers and your Link-OS printers in a dashboard view. Really a different product than Profile Manager Enterprise, however, because Profile Manager Enterprise, as I say, covers about 350 settings. The OVS MDM tool that that OBS uses covers around 56 settings altogether. So if you were looking for real depth in terms of device management and you needed the convenience tools like the tagging that we talked about and the easy setup, you'd want to look at Profile Manager Enterprise as your way for managing those printers. So I hope that this has been useful. A little bit of a summary, but if this has been useful, that's great. Now, a couple of quick notes here. Profile Manager Enterprise is going to be releasing at the end of March 2017. So as I record this right now, we're just about a month out from March. It will be an on-premise based application. As I mentioned, it will have a self-installer. It will have a product page, and you'll be able to jump on that product page, download the application, place it on a Win 10, Win 2012, or Win 2016 machine, run it for a month, and then it will time out and look for you to purchase a license to reactivate at that point. There will be an online demo, and in fact, the site that you saw me bouncing in and out of during the slides there is the online demo site, and so we'll be putting on information for how to use that online demo site for folks that want to try it, and in fact, folks that want to connect their printers to it and actually manage a printer from that site to get a sense of what it would be like if they were using it on site themselves. So that's it for this presentation. Thanks for the time today. I hope it was useful. Please let me know if you have any questions. You can write our group at softpm@zebra.com. That's softpm@zebra.com. And thanks again for your time. Bye-bye.